Good evening, everyone. Call the City Council to order at 8 o'clock on Monday, July 19, 2021. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have 18 items on this evening's agenda, and I will ask the clerk to please read agenda item number 1.
Minutes of the City Council meeting, June 21st, 2021.
Councilor Tenera.
Motion to accept and place on file.
Motion is made and seconded to accept and place on file. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? They are filed. It's a vote of 11-0. Agenda item number 2.
Now is the time for the continued public hearing on the application for special permit from attorney Michael Brangwyn on behalf of Raising Cane's Restaurant LLC to construct and operate a restaurant with 2 drive-through service lanes on the site at 141 Boston Post Road West, order number 21-100-8307B.
Okay, we have 5 public hearings this evening, so I will ask the applicants for the first one to come on up. And just as a preamble, the public hearings will be conducted in 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant, questions from the public speaking in opposition, questions from the city councilors, and then I would ask that any member of the public or the applicant speaking to please state their name and address for the record. So with that, I will open the first portion of the meeting, which is public speaking in favor of the project.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the council. Mark Donahue from Fletcher Tilton on behalf of the applicant, Raising Cane's Restaurant. With me this evening to answer your questions is Adam Carucci from Raising Cane Restaurants, Eric Dubray from Bowler Engineering, the design consultants for the site, and Jason Adams from McMahon Associates. We'll do our best to be brief given the length of your agenda, but feel free to stop us to ask any questions along the way. Raising Cane seeks a special permit to operate a dual drive-through quick service restaurant at 141 Boston Post Road West. It is the site presently of a building that's occupied by a loyal companion, and many will remember it as a former Blockbuster site. The operation is not within the existing building. It is on that site, but the building will be raised and a new building will be constructed. Raising Cane's is fairly new to the marketplace, so just by way of background, Raising Cane's was founded about 25 years ago by a former fry cook down in Louisiana, who's grown that business to 525 restaurants across the United States and the Middle East. It's unique in that it has only 4 items on its menu. It sells chicken fingers, crinkle-cut fries, coleslaw, and Texas toast. It's the entirety of the menu. The limited menu and the proprietary drive-through methodology that Raising Cane's has led to a dramatic speed in service of their business. They do not rely upon the traditional message board or order board during peak times. Rather, during their peak times, they actually enlist crew members to go out to the operation in 4 different shifts to take orders through tablets and then actually transport food from the store to the outside drive-through so everyone doesn't have to move toward the window. It results in a standard that the company's been able to achieve that from the time of arrival to the site and the vehicle to leaving is aimed at being less than 2.5 minutes even during peak times of operation. With the drive-through being a significant portion of the business, about 75% pre-COVID, and that obviously grew during the COVID period, but the store is still important itself. The store has inside and out 72 total seats, and the site as designed complies with the parking requirements of the zoning ordinance. To give you a better idea of the entirety of the site, what I would ask, with your permission, Mr. President, is for Eric Dublage to review the site, and then Mr. Adams can review very briefly the traffic configuration. Thank you. Eric?
Good evening. For the record, Eric DeBrule with Bowler Engineering, 352 Turnpike Road, Southborough. As mentioned, the existing site is 141 Boston Post Road. In the center of this aerial here, you'll see a loyal companion, essentially a 7,000 square foot pet store, which is going to be completely raised from the site. Effectively, it'll be a brand new site. You'll note from the south off of Route 20, there's an existing one-way entrance, and then you would essentially take that right into a one-way into that site drive from Route 20. To the north, we have a full access site drive off of Northborough Road, which is existing, and both drives will remain off of the existing curb cuts. We just add a little bit of color to the site plan that we submitted here, but effectively what Raising Cane's is proposing is about a 3,600 square foot quick serve restaurant with drive-through, as mentioned. Again, we are fully reutilizing the existing site driveways from Route 20 from the south, and then Northborough Road, again, which is full access. We reviewed this plan, I think, on 3 different occasions with through the preliminary and formal site plan review process. We do obviously have to go back before them before the process is final, but there were several comments through that process that we were able to incorporate from town staff in terms of site circulation and the ultimate placement of the building. So we appreciate staff working with us on the site circulation and how this final layout has come about. Let's see. Mark mentions 28 parking stalls on the site. The way you would essentially access the site from Route 20, you take a one-way in on the right. It's a single entrance only drive. You'd circulate around the building, either park or use the dual lane drive-through. From the north, you'd enter in and essentially the same thing. You've got full access around that building to get into the drive-through or park. We're fully compliant with dimensional requirements. We did receive a zoning board variance to reduce a landscape setback in an existing area to the west at the existing trash enclosure at the McDonald's, but otherwise we're fully compliant with zoning regulations. Relative to grading and stormwater improvements on the site, there is significant topography across this site. The western portion of the site, essentially you've got the Embassy Suites up high, about 10 feet on top of a retaining wall. We've got about a 2-foot retaining wall just to the west of that existing retaining wall along our easterly property line. Stormwater compliance, we're fully compliant with Massachusetts stormwater standards. We are reducing impervious surface on the site, but we are infiltrating with the use of an underground infiltration system, some of that stormwater, and we are also treating the stormwater with a stormwater quality unit, again, just to make sure we're fully compliant with Massachusetts stormwater standards. Pretty standard utility plan that we've got, completely new utilities all the way back to the main, electric, gas, sewer, water, everything will be brand new on the site. I'll just leave off with landscaping. Raising Cane's is very committed to making sure that they've got a very substantial landscape package. It's something that's very important to them. We've got over 700 new plantings on this very small site, so it's a very densely planted landscape plan that we're able to propose. Relative to site signage, on Northborough Road, we've got a new monument sign about 25 square feet proposed, about 8 feet high, and then we're replacing the existing, or refacing the existing freestanding sign on Route 20 with an approximately 50 square foot and 24 foot high freestanding sign. So that's just the very high level overview. I'd invite Mr. Adams with McMahon to talk a little bit about the traffic.
Good evening. For the record, Jason Adams, 120 Water Street, Boston. I'm a traffic engineer with McMahon Associates, and we were hired to review the potential traffic impacts of this project. We completed an extensive data collection effort focusing on the weekday midday peak period, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the weekday afternoon peak period, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m., and the Saturday midday peak period, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., looking at the 3 driveways serving the site and the interaction between the site and the adjacent McDonald's restaurant. We forecasted vehicle trips expected to be generated by the project, and then assigned those vehicle trips to the site and the site driveways in order to understand if there were to be an impact on either the driveways or the adjacent McDonald's. As part of our data collection effort, we also observed drive-through queues at the existing McDonald's, looking to evaluate if there was any issue with the existing McDonald's queue extending back towards the driveway coming off of Boston Post Road. Throughout the 9 hours of data collection at the peak periods of the site, we did not observe the drive-through queue of McDonald's extending back all the way to Boston Post Road or in a way that would inhibit vehicles from entering the site, turning right into the Raising Cane's site and proceeding onto the new restaurant here. Overall, our review indicates that the project would not have a noticeable or significant impact on the operations of the driveway or on the adjacent McDonald's. We feel that the site has been designed in an appropriate way to efficiently process vehicles entering and exiting and circulating within the site. Happy to answer any questions that you may have, but just wanted to give a brief presentation.
Thank you, Jason.
Just in closing, Mr. President, obviously the area in question has a number of quick-serve restaurants available. It also has had a number of traffic improvements over the years as part of those developments, and therefore, as Mr. Adams indicated, has the ability to do it. We believe that it is an appropriate site for a drive-through restaurant to be added to the community. We respectfully request your positive vote of the City Council, and we'd be glad to answer any questions or concerns that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Are there any other individuals speaking in favor of the project? Anyone else speaking in favor of the project? Anyone else speaking in favor of the project? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Are there any questions from the public? Questions from the public? No questions from the public. I'll close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Are the members public speaking in opposition?
Hello, my name is Bill Squires. I live at 1 Lantern Lane in Georgetown, Massachusetts. I am an attorney for McDonald's Corporation next door. I'm not speaking in opposition, but we have some concerns about traffic. You all should have a letter in your package from Ken Cram of Bayside Engineering, McDonald's traffic engineer, whom we just retained to help us work with Raising Cane's. We received the memo from McMahon Associates from Raising Cane's team on Friday, which we're reviewing. And we expect to confer with Raising Cane's in the background and hopefully won't need to be back here again. But we would ask, I assume that you all will be referring this to the Urban Affairs Committee. We would ask you to do that to give us more time. Thank you.
Absolutely, Bill. And if I could ask the city clerk to read the, just the notice that we have that correspondence that you mentioned, Bill, on file with the City Council.
It's communication from Bayside Engineering on behalf of McDonald's Corporation regarding concerns regarding traffic impacts of application for special permit of Raising Cane's Restaurant at 141 Boston Post Road West.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public speaking in opposition? Any other members of the public speaking in opposition? Any other members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Orem.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple questions on queuing, so I don't know who the best person would be from the Raising Cane group.
I'll let Mr. Adams answer, but I'll just try to do the technical part of changing the slide if I should.
Yeah, if you can go to the slide that shows, yes. So how many cars can you queue on your own property? Excuse my voice.
So as can be seen here, there are 15 vehicles that can be queued
Okay.
adjacent to the building. There are 15 vehicles fit in that space.
And I don't know what the property, I know where the property line is. You show it very well here. It's obviously, the entrance is on McDonald's property, I presume, or is that a easement for access?
To the extent the council is referring to this access
Yes,
drive.
yes, thank you, Mark.
That's
yes.
actually technically on McDonald's property, but there is a reciprocal easement agreement between these two properties that allows for actually cross-access. The property proposed by Raising Cane has the right to cross, not just for the driveway, but to cross all the way over to the opposite curb cut for McDonald's if necessary, and both obviously share the curb cut out to Northborough Road also at Plan Top.
And the reason for my question, it looks like you're landlocked unless you put in your own entrance. And was there any consideration for you putting in your own entrance?
There was not, this was part of a configuration. Actually, these properties were owned in concert at one time, and part of the development was taken into consideration the future use, but that they would limit the number of curb cuts on Route 20 to promote vehicular access and safety.
That makes sense, and that's a fair statement. I said, how did this happen? But I didn't know if it was reciprocal or an easement, so thank you for your answers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think, Mr. Adams, this will be for you. So if I'm coming to Route 20 to enter, to go into Raising Cane's, then I would take that right and then that right, follow down, go through the drive-through, then back around, then take. So I'm going around the building essentially twice, correct?
So correct. So you're entering, you're taking a right, you're coming around the building, and then you would take a left turn.
Right, because you cannot leave that. That's a one-way.
Exactly, correct. So all the vehicles would circulate back around the building. They would have the option to exit directly onto Northborough Road, which is where we feel most of the vehicles would access.
Right.
Or you could continue circulating around the McDonald's if you wish to take a right turn back onto Boston Post Road.
So if we can refer to the other side that had the color with the landscaping green. My concern is if that's the case, so that one, the other one was fine. I just want to see the back, yeah. So my concern is though, in your educated, sophisticated, professional opinion, there won't be a bottleneck, because that to me seems like it's going to be tight. Do we know the dimensions? Because essentially that's the exit for anyone that's coming
Correct,
in.
right. So, right, vehicles would be exiting here.
Right.
That has been designed to industry standards to allow for vehicles, two-way traffic there. The volumes on Northborough Road are such that there isn't much restriction for vehicles exiting. Certainly there are vehicles there, but both in our observations of how the existing McDonald's works and then in the analysis that we ran as part of our efforts to understand the impacts, that driveway out onto Northborough Road is shown to operate at an acceptable level of service. And then, right, so
I'm not concerned about the Northborough exit. I'm concerned about your exit out of your
Right.
parcel of land there, because there's now a crosswalk there as well. So you have cars coming in and going at 2.5 minutes times 15. I just think that there'll be a bottleneck. That's my only concern. So if we could see your traffic study at
Sure.
some point, just so we can take a look, that
Yep.
would be great.
That's
Thank you.
understandable.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Actually, back to that area. So just for clarification, from Northborough Road, someone can basically turn into Northborough Road and then take a left into your property
Correct.
and then go around and then get into the queue for takeout.
Correct.
And then if basically everyone comes around and has to leave through that point and either, take a left or basically go straight through the McDonald's area. So yeah, I just want to make sure, because on Route 20, it's a one-way. You can't exit that.
Right, and that's why we do feel that most of the vehicles exiting the site, we would expect to happen on Northborough Road. It gives more access back onto Route 20. And even those seeking to continue to the west on Route 20, I think that the Northborough Road is just as desirable than circulating around the McDonald's, so we don't expect there to be.
What sort of signage were you planning to have for the entrance near Route 20? Is it do not enter type thing, signage, or?
The signage, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so essentially we've got multiple do not enters, one way, and then as you're exiting the drive-through coming down south, no right turns. So there's a ton of signage to help direct traffic out that way.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. President. You can stay on this slide. I have a couple questions. My first is regarding whether or not this is a typical design for a car to go, as Councilor Dumas mentioned, around twice in one loop on the property.
Just wanted to provide a little bit of context and background to how the circulation pattern came to be. Originally, we had the ability to, when we originally submitted for the staff site plan review, we had it full access leaving that drive-through. Through the comments from the city, they asked to just have that one way with the left out. So again, we feel comfortable with it, and it was kind of in line with some of the comments that we received from city staff.
Okay. Thank you. And regarding the area on the right side of the property, are those parking spaces that are indicated? I'm just curious, given the fact this is a drive-through and it seems to be a very quick turnaround, what the likelihood of someone parking there is, as well as if there's a speed limit. I'm afraid, given the safety, that people will be speeding along trying to get into the drive-through at the same time that people are trying to possibly go in and out of the parking spaces.
Right, so I mean, the parking space, there is a dining room, so people will be parking. But again, I think it's been designed per industry standards, per zoning. Don't really have that concern with, the conflict with cars speeding through, as you mentioned.
So to clarify, there would not be any speed limit regarding the, I guess, runway to get into the drive-through?
If I might. Beyond the signs that gave direction that were already indicated by Eric as part of it, there are signs here indicating that the approaching the do not enter in this direction, and also approaching the crosswalk. The crosswalk itself is a signal that there are people here. The movement itself is a sweeping turn, so we think that will be not so much a speedway. One enters and has to make a move here also, which will do it. And we're pretty confident that people's knowledge of the area will be such that they'll be able to see that there are pedestrians there. While about 75% of the business is driven through the drive-through, the dining room still is a popular alternative, and we'd expect it to be popular, particularly in this area, potentially with the traveling public in the various hotels who would be looking for an alternative as opposed to being in their vehicle.
Okay, when it goes to urban affairs, I think it might be helpful to see where some of those demarcations are on the site plan, as well as if, given the peak periods you mentioned from 4 to 7 p.m. when it could be dark in the winter months, knowing how well lit the area will be for people backing in and out, as well as driving around.
That's a very fair point. All those are in the detailed plan. We'll be glad to have a chance to review them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Perlman. Any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It seems to me that things are changing out there, that people are encouraging people to do the drive-through. I think you have, what, 28 tables, 28 parking places, and how many tables or chairs inside?
Inside and out, there are 72 seats for patrons.
Do you discourage, or will you encourage people to go inside? You said something like 25% of your business does go in.
No, people are encouraged to come in and certainly have the opportunity. It's a full serve inside the restaurant. In other words, it's more than welcome. There's a level of table service of delivery to the table and clearing the tables in the regular fashion. It's part of a third place if people want to do it. The reality is that, particularly given the limited menu, it tends to, the business seems to be driven by people who are looking for speed, and they are often on to something else. But we welcome the opportunity for people to use the dining room.
Right. I'm not against, drive-throughs. If we didn't have so many drive-throughs, through this last pandemic, we wouldn't have survived. I mean, it was amazing. And the only reason I bring this up, because I know Chick-fil-A, they approaching things a little differently too, and I think it's a good idea. They're going to actually have people, I think, like your restaurant, outside taking orders.
Yeah, there are actually, to the councilor's question through you, Mr. President, there are actually during peak times 4 crew members outside taking orders in 2 different locations to keep traffic moving, and they're taking packages of food from the window and transporting it to the outside lane in some fashion. That's able to move it. It also serves as kind of a safety net. If there was ever a breakdown in the system, you'd basically have 4 traffic cops, for lack of a better term, to direct.
Kind of interesting. They say history repeats itself. 60 years ago, we had in Greater Boston, Richard's Drive-In Theaters, restaurants. There was a couple of them, one down Revere and I think one in outside of Boston. So it was kind of interesting that you're kind of going back to that. And I think the purpose is to feed people, because they are on the go, more quickly. Kind of interesting. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Doucette?
Thank you very much. I was just going through my notes and I noticed something you said. You have 4 items on the menu. Do you have drinks?
Plus the drinks.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry. Point well taken.
Any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, just to let the applicant know, this has been referred to Urban Affairs. As Chair of Urban Affairs, I will set up a meeting with you. We will need a draft set of conditions for this special permit, so you can work with Karen Bully, our executive assistant, if you need some help with a sample of that. If you have a traffic report that you can get to us, I'm sure everybody would be happy to have that to look at also. And I know once we get the draft report, we will get information from managers. As you stated, this has gone through site plan. I believe I was at most of those site plan meetings. They did do a lot of work with you, and I appreciate the work that especially the fire chief did, and I know that your original request was to have the traffic be able to make that right-hand turn and go back out onto 20. So I believe that the desire of site plan to not let that happen is probably a good decision, and I'm sure that they can offer some opinion when it gets to Urban Affairs. And I think that is, I also just want to remind people, I'll stop from there. We can talk about it in Urban Affairs when we meet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Are there any other questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Seeing none, I close that part of the public hearing and the entire public hearing, and this is in Urban Affairs. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Agenda item number 3.
Now is the time for the public hearing on the application for special permit from Edgewood Entertainment LLC to operate an indoor golf simulators and a bar area in the existing building at 229 Boston Post Road West. Order number 21-100, 8328.
Again, this public hearing will be conducted in 4 stages. First, with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Second, questions from the public. Third, public speaking in opposition. And fourth, questions from the city councilors. I'll open the public hearing with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant.
Good evening, City Council members. My name is Holly Irvin Salvi. I'm presenting on behalf of Edgewood Entertainment. My address is 48 Edgewood Road in Southborough, Mass. Appreciate the opportunity to present on this, to share with you a little bit more about what our plans are. This presentation will cover more about what is X-Golf, so everyone understands the concept, who is Edgewood Entertainment, where the space is, and how the X-Golf experience works. Following the procedures of this hearing, I'll be glad to answer any questions at the appropriate time. And I also, before starting, would like to thank those that were part of the application process in their guidance and patience as I worked through this. So, what is X-Golf? X-Golf franchisees, let me go to this one, is to provide family-friendly indoor golf, focus on entertainment with food and beverages, and golf instruction and club fitting. In essence, play, train, and entertain. Golf is a sport that many of you know has been around for a very long time, and X-Golf is part of the evolution of this sport. Specifically, they're hoping to be the home of indoor golf. So what does that mean? One is the advanced technology over the competition. So there's simulators that obviously simulate the experience of golf. There's auto teeing and feed systems. So similar to a bowling alley, when you bowl and the ball comes back to you, this similar concept happens where you hit into the screen, it feeds back, and it auto tees up for you. It's a user-friendly experience, so not to speak of my golf game, but there is a mulligan button, so it does help. Most comprehensive indoor tracking systems, so as it's noted there, it's tracking a lot of information for you as a player, the speed, the launch, the direction, and there's over 6,000 calculations per second that is being captured to tell you more about your golf game. This software and the data makes playing a round of golf more realistic, and critical to those who want to train and improve their game. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the specific services that are offered at X Golf. So hourly simulator rentals, so people would go online and reserve their time. You know, I'm going to play for an hour or 2 hours. They reserve that and pay via credit card online. We will also have a PGA Pro on staff. They can provide lessons to folks. They will also help with club fittings and club sales. There can be memberships. Those are typically done in the off-season, so to encourage more traffic. Weekly leagues, so those of you that might play in a golf league in the summer outdoors, you can bring that indoors during the winter. Online tournaments, so you can play with other X-Golfs or other groups. There's many online options. And again, with gaming becoming so important and so critical to sort of the millennials, I think we'll see more of that. Private parties, so in the design we're currently looking at, we have two what we're calling kind of VIP suites where they're a little more partitioned off. So if you're having a private event, you'll be able to have some private space for that. Obviously, golf camps, so we hope to work with local recreation departments and other groups to have kids come in and do camps. And a full bar with alcoholic beverages is also part of the entertain focus. So, X Golf exists. There are presently 55 franchise locations across 20 states. You can see here from the map where they are. Many are in Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin. They started mostly in the Midwest. There are 5 in New England. So there's 1 presently in Massachusetts, 2 that are planned, the Marlborough location as well as the Burlington location, 1 in Rhode Island, and 1 is planned to be open in Connecticut, Westport, Connecticut. Who is Edgewood Entertainment? Well, you're looking at part of it. I'm myself and my husband, Brian Salvi, here. And so this is owned and operated by a local family. We chose Marlborough. We did look at many locations, and we chose this area because, one, it's close to where we grew up, where we live, and where we are part of the community. We both have been on boards for various sports organizations, whether it's Triborough Hockey or Southborough Little League. We also have, both of us have over 30 years each in corporate experience in finance, business process improvement, and planning. So now we would like to take sort of all of that business experience along with our love of sport and meld them into this venture. The site, as you guys know, is at 229 Boston Post Road West here in Marlborough. I'm starting kind of at a high level. This is the parcel map, just to orientate everyone. This is more specifically a view of the existing buildings and parking in that plaza that's owned by RK Marlborough. And the star there is indicating this specific location that we are looking at, which is to the right of Sullivan Tire, those of you that are familiar with that area. The space in particular is about 9,075 square feet. And as you can see from the picture on the left, there is not much built out in that space. It's kind of a wide open space that the current tenant is using. So there's not much demolition that needs to be done. We'll just be building out sort of our build out with the bar and the golf simulators. On the right, as you can see, that's a standard kind of sample of a sign that would be there on the outside. There is also a pylon sign out on Route 20 for the existing tenant, and we would take over those same dimensions for the signage out there. So this is the current design plan, and I wanted to start sort of at the front entrance down on the bottom. The bar area is to the right, so when people come in, they'll come in and check in and say, hi, I'm here for a 2 o'clock, bay. We will sign them in, check, see if the bay is available, escort them down to the bay, usually give them a little time, make sure they know how to use the equipment, set them up, make sure they're comfortable. So there'll be a seating area there in case, the bay isn't ready yet. And then over on the left and on the right, you'll see there's 8 golf simulation bays that will be used during the day in the evening for golf. You'll see the ones at the top back are a little longer. Those are the ones I was mentioning that have a little more of a partitioned and private area. And the restrooms are in the back. All right, there will be, there's 95 seats and 40 cars is estimated at peak for the parking. So how will we deliver the X-Golf experience? So here's a picture of some existing exterior and interior pictures of X-Golf. You can see down below at the very bottom of the screen in the middle there, that's where somebody would press on the button with their foot and get the ball to tee up for them. So if you're older and you don't want to bend down or you're not feeling well that day, then you can just press the button and make it happen. And the exterior, that's not our Jeep. Maybe someday we'll have a fun, fancy Jeep like that, but that's not ours. These are just so that, and over here on the right is the interior, where you'll see our look. It will be very similar to these. Because again, it's a franchise, there's a brand component, and we will be following those standards. Here's another picture. This is an X-Golf in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Again, similar look and feel to it. Core hours of operation would be Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., Friday and Saturday, 9 a.m. to 12, and Sunday, 9 to 6 p.m. Now, this is a sample food and drink menu. Again, it's a sample one. We expect ours to be very similar. I want to make it really clear that we are using express ovens for heating and warming. I'm going to repeat, this is not a full kitchen. There are no open flames, none of those other things that are needed in a full kitchen. The food will be kept simple, and it will be with the express oven. So similar to what, if you go to Starbucks when they heat up pastries or egg sandwiches, those type of things, Subway does a similar thing when they toast subs. So that's what we're going to have. The other item is the liquor license, which is required as part of the franchise. That liquor license has passed through Marlborough. It has gone to the ABCC. They've asked for a couple of items, which we're sending over this week, and then we expect that to move along as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Holly. Is there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Are there any questions from the public? Questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? None? Oh, Councilor Wagner.
Tell me a little bit more about how the alcohol works. So I saw there was a bar and that was separate. Are there people, like if you're in one of those bays, are there people serving you drinks? So I'm trying to figure out how the family friendly, because it looks like a really fun place for adults to have a few drinks, but I'm having a hard time seeing how that's mixing, having like little kids and then people serving alcohol, and so help me understand how that works, please.
Sure. So in each bay, again, you have your own area. So in each bay, if you're with your family, there's a person up golfing that will be closer to the screen. Then there's usually couches behind there, and where the family can sit or anyone can sit. There will be waiters and waitresses bringing over food or drink. Again, there's non-alcoholic drinks, there's plenty of food. So if your party is choosing to have alcohol, or if your party is not, that is their choice. and they can be brought over there. And again, you have your kind of your own area. What did I want to add there? Oh, behind the couch are some stools as well, so people can separate, and then you can observe when you're not hitting. When it's your turn to hit, you go up and play your ball and take your turn. Similar to the bowling alleys that you see at Apex, right, where you have your kind of your own lane. There's food and drink served there, and I consider that a family-friendly experience as well.
Thank you, Councilor Wagner. Anyone else? Councilor Tenera.
Really quick, you mentioned there was another town in Massachusetts.
Yes.
What town was that?
Wayland.
Wayland? Okay.
Yes.
More for personal information. Just curious. Now, was this your only venture with
Yes.
X-Golf? First one?
You've got my 100% attention and energy.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Tenera. Are there any other questions from the city councilors? Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one question. I was curious, do you have any other types of those games, these type of games like amusement parks would have for kids and so forth, or is it just golf?
Right now, it's primarily just golf. We did hear through the franchise that at some point they may have some kind of kid games that they can play using the screen and the simulators to kind of do a video game sort of.
That's what I was trying to think of, video games.
Yeah, like the Nintendo games where you pretend you're bowling or you're playing tennis. Those are in the works, but it's not something we would be doing right away.
Okay. Well, thank you.
We don't have specific information on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So these aren't your normal golf clubs, are they?
Yes.
Oh,
you bring in your own golf clubs. The ball is specific in the sense that it has markings so that the lasers can pick it up and do all those calculations.
Okay, so the ball shows up and you actually hit it against, and it shoots up and hits the screen?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
And there are rental clubs too, if you don't, for people that don't have their own.
Yep. Okay, great, thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Any other councilors? Are there any other questions from the councilors? Any other questions from the councilors? Seeing no questions from the councilors, I'll close you. Councilor Roby?
Thank you, Mr. President. So again, this is in Urban Affairs. This is kind of an unusual special permit for us. I don't know that since I've been on the council, we've done one specific to the requirement because of the denial by the building department, but we will work through it. If you can work with our assistant, Karen Bully, to get a draft special permit with conditions, we can then talk to site managers and see if there are any issues that anybody has, and we can take this up in committee.
What denial are you referring to?
The building permit denial from the building department.
We haven't applied for
We
it.
received a letter from the building department stating, where did it go?
Councilor Roby, would be amenable to ask for suspension of the rules to let our building commissioner speak?
If he didn't realize he was here, but yes, can we get a suspension for the building commissioner to speak?
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to let the building commissioner speak. All those in favor? Suspension is granted, 11-0. Mr. Tway. Either microphone, whatever one you want to use.
I just want to take over the document that
Did it come from you?
did.
Do you want my computer so you can?
No, that's fine.
I mean,
There's not a
you're
denial in
saying,
there.
well, it says your crest.
It just requires them to.
I believe, just for clarification, it's just the initial a permit application that said, hey, you can't apply for a permit, you need a special permit. So that's why they're here, to get an entertainment permit in the district that they're in. That's what the council's voting on. Everybody good? Everybody's good. Okay, Councilor Roby.
So, yes, I apologize. It's not a denial, it's a zoning determination that he made. So we need to have the special permit. So we need information from you. When we get that document, then I can set up a subcommittee meeting and we can continue the process. I do know that the license board, because I had contacted the the clerk from the license board. They did approve it. I was told that there were some concerns from the ABCC, so so long as that goes through, because
They were just, additional information was required.
Right. And I would assume it will all be okay, but I believe in the document that you provided with them that your lease is contingent on that liquor license. So if for some reason it is denied, you still plan on going forward? And maybe you don't know the answer to that.
The license is denied, would you continue going forward? It's a stipulation of the franchise.
Oh, okay, interesting. All right, and I will just, it's not really, it's a question, I guess, also on the information from the license board were comments that I believe the owner of the building gave to you, where they said that window coverage full window coverage was allowed. I believe you probably should check with the building department. I don't believe you can fully cover those windows.
Yeah, it's
just as a point of reference for in the future. And I will also find out, I don't know if you will need the Board of Health for the kitchen, even though it's not.
We've already been in
a
discussions.
cooking. All right, then I'm sure we'll hear from the Board of Health on that too.
Yes.
All right, thank you. We
Okay,
should be
and what
all
are the
set.
specific documents you need for that next, you said you...
A special permit draft.
Of the decision.
Right.
Yep, got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other questions from the councilors? Any questions from the councilors? Any questions from the councilors? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing and the entire public hearing, and this is in Urban Affairs. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 4.
Now is the time for the public hearing on the proposed zoning amendment to the Code of the City of Marlborough, Chapter 650, Section 5, and Sections 1836 by adding hobby vehicle storage as a warehousing use in the limited industrial district. Order number 21-100, 8344.
Again, this public hearing will be taken in 4 stages, starting first with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant, then questions from the public speaking in opposition, and questions from the City Council. With that, we'll start with public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Please state your name for the record, please.
Thank you, President Ossing and councilors. For the record, Brian Falk from Myrick O'Connell. I'm appearing on behalf of Marlborough Industrial LLC, the owner of land located at 685 Farm Road, which is being developed by Capital Group Properties as the Airport Industrial Park. This is the first of 3 hearings tonight involving the Airport Industrial Park. With this petition, we're seeking a new warehousing use called hobby vehicle storage. This would be an extension of the existing warehousing use available in the limited industrial and industrial zoning districts. Capital Group has a buyer interested in using an airport industrial park site for the indoor storage of its collection of rare automobiles. The buyer is looking at lots 9 and 10 at the park, which is off the cul-de-sac as you see on the lotting plan. The current list of permissible warehousing uses in the limited industrial district does not accommodate this use. And this is excerpt from our proposed zoning amendment. If you look under number 2, that is the definition that's provided for manufacturing and or warehousing. And right now, the list of uses is limited to a very specific list, which is footwear, precision instruments, tool and die, dental, medical, and optical equipment, electrical or electronical components, and biomedical or biotechnology products. We've discussed this with the building commissioner and come to the conclusion that if your warehousing use is not on that list, it's prohibited. So this zoning amendment would simply add hobby vehicle storage to that limited list of warehousing uses. The amendment would also define hobby vehicle storage to clarify that this is not an auto sales or auto repair use, and the storage may not take place outside of the building. So from the public's perspective, this would involve a building with vehicles coming and going on a very limited basis and nothing stored outside. And just to reiterate, the definition that we've provided for hobby vehicle storage is the warehousing, maintenance, and repair of vehicles owned as part of a collection, provided the vehicles shall be stored indoors in a building with a floor area not to exceed 17,000 square feet, with an accessory building not to exceed a floor area of 3,000 square feet. The vehicles shall not be displayed outdoors for sale, and any maintenance or repair shall take place indoors and shall be limited to vehicles stored at the site. So given these guidelines, we believe this use would have very little impact and is well suited for the industrial and limited industrial districts. We also think this is a warehousing category that would see few users beyond our buyer. This is for someone with a car collection looking to store the car someplace safe indoors, but not conduct an auto sales or auto repair operation. I understand the Planning Board has scheduled its public hearing for August 23rd. We look forward to your questions and working with the Urban Affairs Committee on the final language of the proposed amendment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Falk. Are there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any members of the public speaking in favor? Any members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Are there any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition? Are any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Fundamentally, I don't see any real issues with this, but I do want to get, just as we work through this, clarification exactly what is a hobby vehicle. You know, is that something that is worthy of registration? Does the need of registration be considered a hobby vehicle? Is, you know, a World War I tank considered a hobby vehicle? You know, issues like that. You got the place in Hudson. It's appropriate. I'm assuming that these are land vehicles. They're not going to be boats or aircraft as well. So I just want to get that clarified, exactly what we're talking about here. You know, aside from that, I really don't have any issues with this. So.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Orm.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to question the language. It's very wide open when it says any maintenance or repair of the cars housed there, which brings out a lot of issues that would need to be at least tightened up. Do you need floor drains? Since you're doing maintenance inside a building, the building department's going to be asking the same question. And are there going to be any controls for obnoxious noise or odors? Because if you're running the car for a long time and it's spewing oil, so these are the type of things I'd like to see maybe tightened up. I'm not against the concept, except I'd like to see the maintenance and repair tightened up so we know, because it appears you're trying to keep it away from the other businesses and screen it off. So I think we need to make sure that's addressed as well. So I would ask that that be addressed in committee. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Orm. Any other questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Questions from the councilors? Seeing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing and the entire public hearing. This is in Urban Affairs. Thank you, Attorney Falk. Agenda item number 5.
Now is the time for the public hearing on the application for a special permit from Attorney Brian Falk on behalf of De Silva Landscaping, Inc. to construct and operate a landscaper's yard at the Airport Industrial Park, 685 Farm Road, Unit 17, Order Number 21-100-8345.
Okay, again, this public hearing we've taken in 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public speaking in opposition, and questions from the City Council. We'll start with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Again, please state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you again, President Ossing and councilors. For the record again, Brian Falk from Myrick O'Connell, appearing on behalf of the applicant, De Silva Landscaping. Owner Flavio De Silva was unable to be here tonight, but with me are representatives from Capital Group Properties, which is developing the Airport Industrial Park. Seeking a special permit to operate a landscape contractor's yard at the Airport Industrial Park, which Lot 17, which is in the city's limited industrial district. The Airport Industrial Park is located off of 685 Farm Road. Mr. De Silva's site has been given the address of 49 Airport Boulevard. Airport Boulevard being the new driveway that goes into the industrial park. Since acquiring the airport property, Capital Group has obtained site plan approval to install Airport Boulevard and utilities for 20 commercial sites. 1 spec building is up, and we're marketing the sites to commercial users. Our first 2 buyers are on your agenda tonight. This first application by Mr. De Silva, and an application will be coming up next from a contractor's yard. And these are both existing Marlborough businesses looking to relocate their operations to brand new buildings in the park. De Silva Landscaping has operated in Marlborough for many years, currently located at 982 Boston Post Road East. De Silva would purchase a 30,000 square foot lot with a 3,000 square foot building and space behind the building for materials storage. Vehicles and machinery would be stored in the building. Landscaping materials stored outside would include mulch, loam, plantings, and other typical landscaper materials. This is the site in its prior configuration. As you know, there are a variety of commercial uses adjacent to the site, including landscapers' yards and contractors' yards. This is our specific location in the industrial park, Lot 17, on the southern side of Airport Boulevard. And you should all have larger copies of our updated landscaping plan and site plan. So you can see the yard would be well screened, and that's a requirement of the zoning ordinance, which the council amended a few years ago to find sites for landscapers and contractors' yards in the limited industrial and commercial automotive districts. Yards must be screened so that vehicles, equipment, and materials are obscured from view from the street and adjacent properties with at least a 5-foot barrier. We will have a 6-foot vinyl privacy fence along the perimeter, along with trees and shrubs providing additional screening. As required, materials stored outside must be located on impervious, dust-free surfaces. We will have sufficient paved areas behind the building to comply with this requirement. This is a view of the back of the proposed building where outdoor materials would be stored. And we also have here a photo of the actual fence that will screen the site, installed at another lot in the industrial park. We met informally with the City Site Plan Committee on July 6th. We received some comments regarding the storage areas and protecting the stormwater systems and landscaped areas from damage. We also received comments from the fire chief regarding protections for mulch storage. I have a draft decision prepared and have drafted conditions of approval to address those concerns. I will update that decision as needed following this hearing. The Site Plan Committee is familiar with this site because it granted site plan approval in 2019 to allow for the construction of the road, utilities, and the pads. As part of that approval, Capital Group must amend the site plan with each new user. So if we get this special permit from the council, we would then go back before the Site Plan Committee to amend the site plan. We think this is a very good use for the industrial park. The special permit would allow Mr. De Silva to keep his business in Marlborough in a brand new facility. We look forward to your questions and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Falk. Any other people speaking in favor of the project? Anyone else speaking in favor of the project? Anyone else speaking in favor of the project? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking no, I want to go to questions from the public. Sorry about that. Questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition? Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Public speaking in opposition? I'll close, hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. And questions from the city councilors? Councilor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pretty close to some of the same questions I had with the hobby vehicles. Maintenance of these vehicles, will that be going on when they're inside the building or outside the building? Do you know yet?
I mean, it's intended the vehicles are stored there. There might be minor maintenance, but in terms of vehicle repair, that would probably take place off-site.
Okay, and then, like I say, a lot of the regulations related to floor drains, that will come under when you go to apply. I've had issues when I used to work in the health department in Ashland in respect to mulch, and I was glad to hear the fire chief interacted. You store mulch at large volume, you get off-gassing, you could have a fire actually too. So I would like to, one, know, you did say we have, I think you're referencing this plan here, the larger, but I don't see any areas where it shows the storage of mulch. But the other concern that I just want to bring to the attention of the council as well as others is grass clippings coming back from jobs. They decay on property, and then some of the worst odors I've ever smelled are created from these grass piles. And so I would like to see a control on that, because especially when they go to move them to another location, the odor's unbelievable. And I'll be honest, all your neighbors will be complaining. So I'd like to make sure we address any outside storage of materials that can compost or can off gas. So in a nutshell, because it could be others too, but those are the two that would be my concern, and I would ask be addressed both in committee and by site plan review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Oram. Any other questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing, and the entire public hearing, and this is in urban affairs. Agenda item number 6.
Now is the time for the public hearing on the application for a special permit from attorney Brian Falk on behalf of Lorval Masonry LLC to construct and operate a contractor's yard at the Airport Industrial Park, 685 Farm Road, Unit 18, order number 21-100-8346.
As with the last public hearing, this will be taken up in 4 stages. Public speaking in favor, questions from the public, public speaking in opposition, and questions from the city council. We'll start with the public speaking in favor, starting with the applicant. Again, please state your name and address.
Thank you, President Ossing and councilors. For the record, one more time, Brian Falk from Myrick O'Connell, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Lorval Masonry. With me tonight is owner Lorval Santos, seeking a special permit to operate a contractor's yard at the Airport Industrial Park, which is Lot 18 in the city's limited industrial district, for Lorval's masonry business. I know you just heard a presentation for our hopeful neighbor, DeSilva Landscaping, at Lot 17. I will try to be succinct, but I do have to get certain details on the record, even if you just heard me say them a few minutes ago. Like Mr. DeSilva, Mr. Santos is looking to relocate his existing business in Marlborough to a brand new facility in the park, which would be at 37 Airport Boulevard. Lorval Masonry has operated in Marlborough since 2004, currently located next door at 729 Farm Road. Lorval would purchase a 30,000 square foot lot with 4,000 square foot building and space behind the building for materials storage. Vehicles and machinery would be stored in the building. Stone materials and other masonry items would be stored behind the building. Again, image of the airport days of the site, similar uses nearby. This is our location, number 18, right next to the DeSilva site. Similar to DeSilva, our landscaping plan and site plan provide for a well-screened yard as required by the zoning ordinance. The yard has to be screened so that vehicles, equipment, and materials are obscured from view from the street and from adjacent properties. Materials stored outside must be located on impervious, dust-free surfaces. We'll have a large paved area behind the building for the outdoor storage of materials. The site would be surrounded by this same vinyl fence, which at 6 feet exceeds the city's 5-foot screening requirement. As I mentioned before, we met informally with the City Site Plan Committee on July 6th and received comments regarding material storage areas. I have a draft decision prepared with conditions of approval concerning the protection of the site's stormwater system and landscaping from the contractor's materials. If approved, we would return for formal site plan review to amend the existing 2019 approval for the site. The special permit would allow Lorval to join Mr. DeSilva and relocate to a brand new facility, keeping his business here in Marlborough. Thank you for your time and look forward to your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Attorney Falk. Is there any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any members of the public speaking in favor? Come on up.
For the record, my name is Gina DiMatteo, and I'm located at 721 and 729 Farm Road, where Lorval is currently a tenant. And I'd like to speak in favor of this. I think this is a great use of the airport and a great opportunity to grow one of our small and local businesses in a location that will help him grow and be good for him. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Any other members of the public speaking in favor?
How you doing? I'm Rick DiMatteo, 46 Bellevue Ave, Marlborough. Lorval's been a tenant of ours since probably his conception of being a Mason. He's been an excellent tenant. He'll be a great addition to the airport, and this is a good project for him. He's growing, and he's done good things. I know you all have seen him around town. His house is down there on the right, here at Sudbury Line, and it's made a beautiful place. I think he'll keep good care of this.
Thank you, Mr. DiMatteo. Thank you. Any other members speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Any other members of the public speaking in favor? Hearing none, I'll close that part of the public hearing. Questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Questions from the public? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Public speaking in opposition. Any members of the public speaking in opposition? Members of the public speaking in opposition? Hearing none, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Questions from the city councilors? Councilor Orem.
Well, in all fairness to the other applicants, I'll ask the same questions. You know, if they could show, I think you're referencing this plan, if they could show where those stockpiles will be. Your stock isn't as concerning as organic stock such as bark mulch, but dust would be the only concern if you get in large volumes and so forth. But I think it was well said by the supporters of this, not just for your business, but for the others. It's nice to see you getting into organized places. You have a nice covered area. But again, if we can see the storage areas of any outside storage on the plan, it shows all parking spaces. So if we can see that. And dust control is the only concern I think as I mentioned in the others, if you do maintenance inside, I'm sure you're going to need to address wells.
Mechanical-wise, we do not do.
Oh, okay, good. Well, maybe that can be a condition then. If you're not planning on it, that's fine. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Orem. Any other questions from the councilors? Councilor Landers.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm just curious the number of employees you might have, and do you have ample parking?
Yes.
Roughly 8, and we have sufficient parking on site.
I didn't hear the number. How many?
8.
Oh, 12 parking spaces.
You good, Councilor Landers?
I was wondering if they were hiring.
I can see Dawn down.
We'll strike that from the record. Any other questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Questions from the city councilors? Seeing none, I will close that part of the public hearing, the entire public hearing, and this is in Urban Affairs. Thank you, Attorney Falk and Mr. Santos. Good luck. Catch your breath. You ready? Okay, moving on. Agenda item number 7.
Communication from Councilor Roby regarding proposed zoning amendment to Chapter 650 to add a new Section 61, temporary moratorium for multifamily housing projects, order number 21-100, 8274B.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. The council has a letter explaining what I want to do. Originally, my thought was to just let this die in committee. After talking to the mayor, I concede his point that having a moratorium is probably a smart idea, and the sooner we get it going, the better we are. So what I would like to do is request a suspension of the rules to be able to remove this from committee, get it back to the full committee, and vote on the moratorium this evening.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to remove the item from the Urban Affairs Committee. Any discussion on the motion? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just get one question as far as clarification. If we vote on it tonight, when would the moratorium end?
Sorry, I don't have it printed.
Okay,
I
October
believe
17th.
my understanding is that it would be October 17th. Nothing could be accepted for the October 18th agenda, which means that it would be the November 8th meeting before anything would be on an agenda for the council.
Okay. And this started in March, right?
Well, the official moratorium started immediately upon advertising, which I believe I have in here as a date of June or May. The details are in there.
Okay.
However, and my original thinking of this was that the 90 days went from the date of advertisement for 90 days, and then that was the moratorium. However, if you read the language of the order, the moratorium runs 90 days from when it's approved, not from when it was advertised. So
technically, we have not been under the moratorium until now?
We have been under the moratorium, and nothing has been able to be on an agenda until, if I let nothing happen, 90 days would play, because after 90 days after the public hearing, if no action is taken, you have to start with a whole new public hearing, not only for this body, but the planning board. So rather than have someone submit an order to start this all over again after the 90 days ends, My sense was, why not just bring it back to the committee? I think we all know, I actually changed my mind, but I think everybody knows how they're going to vote. Let's get this officially voted on, get it on the record, and everybody knows where we stand.
So councilors, I apologize. We got to vote on the suspension, then we can talk. So all those in favor of the suspension, please signify. Suspension is approved 11-0. Councilor Roby may continue. Sorry about that.
So I'm going to move to take this out of committee and bring it back to the full committee. I'm going to move to approve the order for
Mike? Katie, your mic.
Move to remove this from committee and put it back in the full committee. Do those need to be two separate motions?
You can just make one motion to remove from committee and vote to approve.
Remove from committee, bring it back to the full committee, and move to approve the moratorium.
Motion's been made and seconded to remove from the Urban Affairs Committee the housing moratorium and approve it to so take effect now, and it would expire on October 17th, just so everybody's clear. Discussion. Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Just clarification, we're taking it from the committee to go to the council, not to another committee, terminology. But yeah, I don't see any issues with this. It's just, I appreciate the explanation from the councilor, for the people that listen to this. I think it was important we kind of walk through this, anyone who's watching this, so appreciate that. And that's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a question as well. So when the October 17th date passes, are we expecting more information from the state, or is there something from the mayor's office that we're expecting? I'm in support of this. I think it's a good idea to slow some things down, but what information are we looking to receive?
So I'm happy to take that. The intent was to get guidance from the solicitor's office as the state is unrolling their determination as to what they actually approved. And as we're finding out, it's changing daily. Is it a 6 vote? Is it an 8 vote for an item? And I think Councilor Roby has another suspension later in the meeting to kind of help us, that we're going to have to get in the habit now, as developers come before us, to actually ask for that opinion up front. Is this a 6 vote or an 8 vote? So that what does a developer think, and then does our legal department agree with that position? So yes, we're going to wait. Now, will we have anything on October 17th?
That's what I was going to say. I
don't know. I will be a little smarter, Councilor Perlman. How smart, I don't know.
Okay, to be determined. Thank you.
That is correct. Any other, Councilor Landers?
Just quickly, Mr. President, I would certainly support this, because I think the timing, if it brings in us to the latter part of October, that suits me fine.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other questions or comments on the motion? Councilor Roby.
Mr. President, I just also want to clarify, I do think that I hope, and I think that was really the piece that the mayor was looking for, and I was hoping for, was the MBTA piece of the new legislation. I think that is where we really need guidance, and there is nothing out there. So that is a big piece for Marlborough, because as a MBTA community, we will have to determine what site we want to make available as of right for housing, and that, I think, is a missing piece for us. So hopefully we will have that by September, October.
Thank you, Councilor Roby. Any other discussion on the motions? So to be clear, the motion is to remove from the Urban Affairs, to present in front of the council, to vote on the housing moratorium to take effect, which will expire on October 17th. Everybody good? All those in favor? Oh, did I miss something?
This is an ordinance. You have to go through the first.
Oh, lucky me. Okay. Sorry. Hang on, it's an ordinance change the clerk reminded me of, so hold that thought for a moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Kerrigan. All right, we tried to get one through there, but we got caught. Okay, so since everybody's all set, so all those in favor of suspending the first reading and approving the second reading, please signify. It is approved 11-0. All those in favor of the passage to be enrolled? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved 11-0. All those in favor of the passage to be ordained? All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved 11-0. Is there any objection to passage in one evening? Hearing none, the ordinance change is approved for the housing moratorium, which will expire on October 17th. Thank you, Mr. Kerrigan. Agenda item number 8.
Communication from Councilor Roby regarding proposed canopy Chick-fil-A, 36 Apex Drive within the Hospitality and Recreation Mixed-Use Overlay District. The plan change to install electric heaters. Order number 21-100, 8317.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just a letter to let everybody know that we did in fact get the communication. It will be taken up in more detail at reports of committees. Unless, was the plan to actually approve this? I forgot what we discussed.
No, you can move that to your reports, and you can take it all up
so
at the
just-
report when you report it out from Urban Affairs, if you want.
Yep, move to reports.
Motion made and seconded to move to the reports of committee. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? It is approved to move to reports of committee. Agenda item number 9.
Communication from the mayor regarding the appointment of John Valade as principal assessor for a 3-year term from date of council confirmation.
Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Refer to personnel.
Motion made and seconded to refer to the personnel committee. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0. Agenda item 10.
Communication from the planning board regarding a negative recommendation on the proposed zoning amendment to chapter 650 of the code by adding a new section to create the commercial village housing overlay district. Order number 21-100, 8293A.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communication from the planning board. Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Motion to file the planning board recommendations approved, 11 in favor, none opposed. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would like to ask for another suspension of the rules to take up another item that I sent to the council related to the this actual order.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules. All those in favor of the suspension? Suspension is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed. Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as I was reading through the guidance and as I thought more about the actual project of the Commercial Village Overlay District and wondered, considering the changes made to legislation, does this take 6 votes or does it take 8? The guidance says that a petitioner is actually supposed to have a statement within their petition. There was nothing there. I asked the solicitor for an opinion. His suggestion was to use the guidance in the guidance. There is a ability for a vote of a city council to ask for help from EOHED. It needs to be a vote of the council to get it. I can't just request that on my own. So as I explained in the letter, if we approve this tonight, then the solicitor's office can fill out the form. That's part of the guidance. Work through with them. They state in there that it would be back to us, they hope, by 30 days. So it would fit into the scheme of things. We would know it's guidance, but we would at least have some guidance. So I'm going to move that the council vote to allow the solicitor to apply for help from EOHED, which is the Executive Office of Housing and Economic Development, to issue guidance on the voting threshold for Commercial Village Overlay District.
Motion made and seconded to approve the order to have the solicitor work through EOHED to get guidance that Councilor Perlman was looking for, as are we, as to what does all this mean. So with that, motion's been made and seconded. Councilor Oram.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I'm in favor of that. I have no problem. But are we allowed to do this since it's not on the agenda?
Yeah, we asked for suspension of the rules, and
Okay.
Councilor Roby submitted to everyone ahead of time.
Oh, I saw it.
Yep,
No, I just want to make sure we don't get
great question.
bounced
Yep.
back.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, no, good question, Councilor Oram. So again, so this is, you all have the correspondence. Suspension was approved. So now it's, do you want to vote to send it to the solicitor to get that input? Because this is what we really need. And as Councilor Perlman mentioned earlier, we want to be getting the applicants to start stating this when they're submitting any future applications ahead of time, because it's going to make it, what do they think it's going to take, and then our solicitor can kind of weigh in on it as well. So any other discussions on the motion? Again, the motion is to send the request to the solicitor to contact EOHED to ask how many votes does this project need. Seeing none, no other discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0. Thank you, Councilor Roby. We are at agenda item 11.
Communication from Attorney Brian Falk regarding a request to withdraw without prejudice the application for a special permit of Global Montello Group Corp. To construct and operate a drive-through facility to serve the current all-town convenience store on the site at 656 Boston Post Road East, order number 21-100, 8215B.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. This will be mentioned in the reports, but at this point in time, I would like to move to approve the request to withdraw without prejudice the application.
Motion made and seconded to approve the withdrawal without prejudice. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0 to withdraw without prejudice. Agenda item number 12.
Communication from Attorney Brian Falk regarding request to withdraw without prejudice application for site plan review from WOHO to construct a mixed-use project within the Marlborough Village District at 28 South Bolton Street, order number 21-100, 8277B.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this is mentioned in the reports, and I know at discussion at committee, I think we got the sense that nothing official needed to happen, but in conversations with the solicitor after the fact, to make sure that it's recorded, I'm going to move to accept the request to withdraw without prejudice the application for the site plan review from WOHO.
Motion made and seconded to accept the withdrawal without prejudice for the site plan review of the WOHO at 28 South Bolton Street. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved 11-0. Agenda item number 13.
Communication from Attorney Brian Falk regarding the application for a site plan review from Global Montello Group Corp. to add a patio with seating next to its newly renovated convenience store within the Wayside District at 656 Boston Post Road East.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer to Urban Affairs.
Motion made and seconded to refer the request to Urban Affairs. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Approved to send to Urban Affairs. 11-0. Agenda item 14.
Communication from Attorney Christopher Flood regarding the application for a special permit to create a second mobile home park by dividing an existing permitted mobile home park at 181 Boston Post Road East.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to refer to Urban Affairs, set a public hearing for August 23rd, and to advertise.
Motion made and seconded to refer the request to Urban Affairs, set a public hearing for August 23rd, and to advertise. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to send to Urban Affairs, set the public hearing for August 23rd, and to advertise. Agenda item 15.
Petitions of Verizon Wireless for the installation of 3 small cell wireless facilities to be located on existing poles within the public right-of-way at 123 Boston Post Road West, pole number 7, 493 Boston Post Road West, pole number 1, and 11 Atkinson Drive, pole number 22.
We'll give Councilor Roby a break. Councilor Landers.
Yeah, I'll take over. Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I'd like to refer this order to Public Services and also set a date for a public hearing, which would be the August 23rd. But I believe, Mr. President, that we should have a separate public hearing for each address.
So your motion is to set individual public hearings for each one?
That's correct.
Motion made and seconded to set 3 public hearings, one for each site, for August 23rd, and we'll talk about the advertising thing, because I'm not sure if it does or it doesn't, but if it needs to be advertised, we'll have it advertised. Yeah. So, okay, so a motion to approve 3 public hearings on each individual cell site for August 23rd. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to set the public hearing for each one for August 23rd, 2021. Agenda item 16.
Communication from various residents in opposition of the application for a special permit to build a multifamily residential project in the business district to be known as Walcott Heritage Farms at 339 Boston Post Road East, order number 20-100-7995.
Councilor Roby.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to accept and place on file the communications.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file the communications. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor? Opposed? The communications are filed, 11-0. Agenda item 17.
Minutes of boards, commissions, and committees.
Mr. President.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to accept and place on file minutes of the boards, minutes, commissions, and committees.
Motion made and seconded to accept and place on file all the minutes. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to file the minutes, 11-0. Agenda item 18.
Claims.
Mr. President.
Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Motion to send the claims to the legal department.
Motion made and seconded to send the claims to the legal department. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Claims going to the legal department is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed. Reports of committees. Who wants to go first? Councilor Dumas.
Thank you, Mr. President. Personnel Committee met on July 14th at 7:33 p.m. The Personnel Committee had 3 items on the agenda. Order number 21-18336, the appointment of Mr. Fowler to the Planning Board for a 5-year term. The motion was made by Councilor Doucette, second by the Chair, approved 3-0. Item number 2, order number 21-18337, appointment of Marsha Waldman to the Cultural Council for a 3-year term. Motion made by Councilor Doucette, second by the Chair, approved 3-0. And lastly, item number 3, order number 21-18338, the reappointment of William Dunbar to the Conservation Commission for a 3-year term. Motion made by Councilor Doucette, second by the Chair, approved 3-0. And the motion was made and seconded to adjourn at 7:59. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Dumas. Hey, to help out Mr. Gibbs, I'm going to go to Finance next to make their report. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. And yes, thank you, Director Gibbs, for all your help during the meeting. Finance Committee met on July 14th, 2021 at 7:06 p.m. We had 1 item on the agenda that evening, order number 21-100-8325, communication from Mayor Vigent with a request for transfer in the amount of $213,852, which moves funds from PEG funds to IT equipment to fund an upgrade of our current permitting software Seller to new software OpenGov. Motion made by Councilor Dumas, second by the Chair to approve the transfer. The meeting adjourned at 7:28 p.m., and I will be asking for a suspension this evening on this item, Mr. President.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules to discuss the transfer. All those in favor of the suspension? Opposed? Suspension is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed. Councilor Irish.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move the recommendation of committee to approve the transfer in the amount of $213,852, please.
Motion made and seconded to approve the transfer for the IT department from the PEG funds. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor? All those opposed? It's carried. Transfer is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed. Thank you, Mr. Gibbs. Thank you, Councilor Irish. Reports of committees. I'm going to, Councilor Landers.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I know Councilor Rowan needs a little more time before she goes, so I'm glad you asked me to give my report. Public Service Committee met on July 14th. We took up 3 items. The first item was order number 21-1008276, petition by Mass Electric to install a new pole, pole number 45/2, within the public right-of-way of approximately 103 feet west of pole 25-1 on Forest Street. On the recommendation of our city engineer, and we worked very closely with him, the concern is, where these poles are going to go. The important thing is on the back of the sidewalk. So, on a motion made by Council Perlman, and second by the Chair, we recommend the approval 3-0. The next item we brought up was order number 21-1008292, petition of Mass Electric to install 280 feet of 4.5-inch conduit for manhole 10 to pole number 93 on Donald Lynch Boulevard by near Bigelow Street. And likewise, on the recommendation of the city engineer, Councilor Perlman made a motion, second by the chair, to recommend 3-0. And I saved the best to the end, Mr. President. That's when we get into, and what did I do with it? The third item. Where the heck did it go? Well, it's not, how come you didn't use underline it? Okay, where the heck did that go? The third item was kind of interesting. We spent more time, so I'm going to spend a little more time. This was order number 211008-294. Petition of Verizon Wireless and installation of a small cell wireless facilities to be located on pole number 19 within the layout of the Boston Post Road Route 20. And, you know, this is kind of a new concept. We're getting back to the small cell towers, and we're not going to be worried about those antennas on top of water tanks. I don't think we're going to have that concern. So we had a great deal of discussion on that, and likewise on a motion made by Council Perlman, second by the chair, to authorize this procedure. A couple of things we had to do differently. We did have to have a tolling agreement because time is a very important factor. We basically have 60 days to act on those. So I had the honor of signing for that. So, Mr. President, I'm going to be asking for 2 suspensions and 2 votes, one on the tolling agreement and the second on the actual petition. So, do you want to?
I'm just looking at the tolling agreement. He's allowed to sign as the chair, correct, Karen?
Yes, he's going to have.
Accept and file. You can sign that on your own.
Okay, I did sign that. So I guess, and I gave a copy to the city clerk. So we all set on that.
Yeah. So all you have to do is report that out because
okay. So we don't need that.
Accept and file it. Yeah, you can just say.
Okay. So that takes care of that. So the only thing I need, Mr. President, then is a suspension so we can vote on the petition, that it can go forward to the city solicitor, and then we can vote on it. That's important. That we
I'm going to ask for I'm going to ask for a 2-minute recess just to get clarification because I'm getting a.
Yeah.
Council's back in session, please. Council Doucette? Councilor Landers?
So we're all set?
You're right.
On the suspension?
Yes, sir.
Vote on the tolling agreement and then on the actual decision, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
You're good. So you want it, so there's been a request for suspension of the rules to accept and file the, well, suspension of the rules for the tolling agreement. All those in favor of the suspending the rules for the tolling agreement? Suspension is approved, so now your motion for the tolling agreement is to accept and place on file?
That's all really to accept.
Motion made and second to accept and place on file the tolling agreement, so it's something I learned new, which is tolling agreement is nothing more than an extension of time. All right, so he's signed that, so we're just going to now enter it into the record, and it's signed by the Chair of Public Service. So all those in favor of approving the tolling agreement extension? It's accept and place on file, 11 in favor, none opposed. Your second, now there's another suspension. One.
Okay.
Good. Suspension to send the
vote on the decision.
The decision to the solicitor. So motion to suspend the rules.
We can vote on at the next meeting. Great, Mr. President.
Motion to suspend the rules. All those in favor? Opposed? It is approved, 11-0. Your motion, Council Landers.
Now, the motion is to approve it and send it on to the city solicitor, but we will be able to vote on it in the next meeting. As I mentioned earlier in my presentation, timing is the key. You're going to find that 60 days is an important number when we get involved with these cell towers. Okay, so that would be my
motion made and seconded is to approve sending the decision to the solicitor to put in proper format.
That's correct.
Right? Discussion on the motion. Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? It is approved to send to the solicitor, 11 in favor, none opposed. That was easy. Sorry about that. Councilor Roby.
Hey, mine's not that difficult. All right, so the City Council Urban Affairs Committee met on Tuesday, June 29th. We took up order number 21-108-317, a request for the approval of a canopy for the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, 36 Apex Drive within the Hospitality and Recreation Mixed-Use Overlay Zoning District. So we had the petitioner back for continued review of Chick-fil-A's plans to add canopies to the building, a new one near the menu board to cover both the lanes of cars, and replacing an existing one at the pickup area. We talked about the clearance bars. Ms. Brown explained that the heaters that she had stated in a prior meeting were in fact not propane, but would be using natural gas. So there was lengthy discussion by the committee on the use of natural gas and its impact on the environment versus using electric heaters, with several members expressing desire for the electric heaters. Ms. Brown stated that Chick-fil-A does use electric heaters in its stores where natural gas is not available. So Councilor Nabin moved to approve the canopy design amended to use electric heaters, provided we receive a letter from corporate office by July 19th council meeting that they agree. The motion was seconded. Councilor Landers requested a roll call vote, which resulted in the motion carrying 4-0. So we did have the letter on tonight's agenda. Do I need to move to accept and place and on file that communication? I don't know what the clerk wants. But we do have the letter stating that they will use electricity. We do have the plans, which the building department has also received, so they can make sure that everything meets what they need to know. So I'm going to move to suspend the rules to be able to vote on this evening.
Motion made and seconded to suspend the rules. All those in favor? Opposed? Suspension is approved, 11-0. Councilor Roby.
Thank you. So I'm going to move to approve the canopy for Chick-fil-A using electric heat.
Motion made and seconded to approve the canopy for Chick-fil-A with electric heaters. Discussion on the motion. Seeing none. All those in favor? All those opposed? It is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed.
The next item that we took was order number 21-108-215, the application for a special permit from Attorney Falk on behalf of Global Monteo Group Corporate to construct and operate a drive-through facility to serve the current All-Town Convenience Store. This was Councilor Doucette moved to recommend approval of the request to withdraw without prejudice. The committee has already voted to take that item up. Next was order number 21-108-277, application for site plan review from attorney Brian Falk on behalf of WOHO to construct a mixed-use project within the Marlborough Village District, 28 South Bolton Street. Again, the motion was to do nothing, but we did vote on that already. And the next item was order number 20-107-995, special permit application from attorney Falk on behalf of WP Marlborough Mass Owner LLC Waypoint Residential to build a multifamily residential project in the business district to be known as Valeris Marlborough, consisting of 188 units in 4 buildings to be located at 339 Boston Post Road. This has been here for a long time. We reviewed again all of the documents in the draft special permit that had been gone over. Mr. Falk, Attorney Falk, did indicate in his appearance that Mass DOT has stated that they would not approve a traffic light for Route 20 at this development's proposed driveway. He had stated that letter was coming to the mayor. I don't know if that has actually come or not. Further discussion on the special permit had been held up in committee to give time for a response from DOT. Now that we had the response, I had asked that this move forward. Attorney Falk reviewed the 9 data points. Oh, sorry, I'm getting into the traffic. Discussion was held on whether we should update the information on comments at the public hearing. Solicitor Grossfield advised the document should only contain the data from the public hearing. Councilor Wagner moved to deny the special permit. The motion was seconded. Councilor Doucette asked for a roll call vote, and that was a motion to deny, carried 3-1, with Councilor Roby voting no. The chair will ask a suspension this evening to have the solicitor put this in proper legal form.
Motion made and motion made and second for the suspension. All those in favor of the suspending the rules? Opposed? Suspension approved, 11-0.
So move to refer the special permit to the solicitor to be put in proper legal form.
Motion made and seconded to refer the special permit to the solicitor to put in proper format. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Is approved, 11 in favor, none opposed.
And
any announcement of meetings before we go?
I was just going to, I believe the council was asked to save July 27th, and I believe we will have a couple of the items that were on that Mr. Falk had brought up on that agenda that will be coming out soon.
Okay. Everybody good? Councilor Tenera.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? All those opposed? We are adjourned at 9:43, 11-0. Have a good evening, everyone.